Alright, everybody. Now for this next song, I want y'all to put your hands together. I got one hell of a song for y'all. A sermon about false prophets. Let's start with my ex-pastor of Gateway Church who was convicted for raping a 12-year-old girl. A man who lived in extreme luxury and will continue to do so after only serving 6 months in jail. But I'm sure that has nothing to do with the fact that he was on Trump's spiritual advisory board. Well, anyways, next up we've got Pastor David Lynn Richards Jr., who was convicted in 2019 for repeatedly raping his own teenage daughter. Pastor Nathan Garcia, with 5 million people in his congregation, recently pled guilty to raping 3 minors. Pastor Warren Jeffs is worth hundreds of millions of dollars, but recently he was convicted for child sexual assault by forcing spiritual marriages on underage girls. Pastor William C. Robinson pleaded guilty to continuous sexual abuse of a child under 14. He received no jail time. And no, I'm not saying that these cases mean that all Christians are like this. Please shut the fuck up and listen. Pastor William Oswald was convicted in 2023 for repeatedly molesting his 2 biological daughters more than 100 times each. Catholic priest David Hommick sexually abused a minor in his own home. Then he received no jail time. Millionaire pastor Andrew Christian Anderson was convicted of 26 counts of felony molestation with 4 boys, of which he received no jail time. He continued molesting boys after that for years. Cardinal Theodore McCarrick was found guilty of sexual abuse in minors and adults over multiple decades, but his case was dismissed because he was deemed incompetent to stand trial. Catholic priest Robert Foley admitted to molesting an 8-year-old boy. Church officials helped him flee the country to avoid arrest. He never faced criminal prosecution and remains in prayer and penance to this day. Pastor John Lowe II of New Life Christian Church raped a 16-year-old girl and still has faced no punishment. Pastor Maciel McKeel, while primarily known for abusing numerous seminarians, was later revealed to have sexually abused his own biological sons, and he was never criminally prosecuted. The Vatican ordered him instead to live a life of prayer and penance. Now he lives in a $100 million luxury. Pastor Robert L. Carter of Houston, Texas, repeatedly sexually assaulted an underage family member more than 600 times, starting when she was just 7 years old. He eventually fathered a child with her when she was 14. But you know what they say, there's always a couple bad apples in the church. You may ask, how the fuck has this happened? Well, the Southern Baptist Convention was found keeping secret lists of reported abusers and resisted reporting abuse according to the independent Guidepost Solutions investigation. Decades of child sexual abuse by priests worldwide with systematic cover-ups by bishops resulting in 300,000 children being abused in France alone. There were over 3,000 congregational leaders responsible, but only 133 of them were ever convicted according to the Guardian's report and independent inquiry into child sexual abuse. Over 220,000 children in Spain were abused by religious authorities according to justiceinfo.net. 728 abusers were identified in 2023, but most cases identified in the national report occurred decades ago, making them ineligible for criminal prosecution under the law. Legal Discovery has revealed that religious organizations maintain an internal database containing thousands of names of alleged child abusers that are never turned over to law enforcement. According to the Irish Independent, it is estimated that for every one report that reaches the police or a headline, several dozen are settled quietly, resulting in the pastor simply being moved to another church or parish to, quote, protect the name of Jesus Christ. A man who was revolted by religious hypocrisy. The greater the hypocrisy, the greater the show. The most damning piece of evidence is a 1962 Vatican document titled Crimen Solicitationis. It mandated perpetual silence regarding cases of clerical sexual abuse. Anyone who broke this silence, including the victims, faced automatic excommunication. Recent indictments against leaders like Pastor David E. Taylor and Pastor Dwight York revealed that these leaders didn't just abuse children. They used spiritual warfare to convince victims that submitting to sexual abuse was a religious requirement for salvation. Beware of false prophets who come disguised as harmless sheep but really are vicious wolves. And you can identify them by their fruit, that is, by the way they act. Can you pick grapes from thorn bushes or figs from thistles? A good tree produces good fruit, and a bad tree produces bad fruit. A good tree cannot produce good fruit, and a bad tree cannot produce good fruit. So every tree that does not produce good fruit is chopped down and thrown into the fire. Yes, just as you can identify a tree by its fruit, so you can identify people by their actions.